Welcome back to Hyperdrive Beyond the Summit podcast series. I'm Holly Sorgen, Executive Director for Community Futures Grand Prairie Region. We're a grassroots economic development organization that serves entrepreneurs through all stages of business development, from pre-ideation to succession and everything in between. I'm so pleased to have a few new guests with me today. But first off, just a bit about Hyperdrive and why we're developing this podcast series. Hyperdrive Women in Business Summit was one of my legacy hopes and dreams. For the past 28 years, if I have realized that I have a bias, it's working with and supporting women to be their very best version of themselves. I always wanted to host an event that brought women together to talk about hard things, to workshop those things out, and to connect with like-minded women, building our tribe, so to speak. We launched the first Hyperdrive event back in March of 2023 and just finished our third event in Jasper on March 15th of 25. It's become a hub of learning, both personal and professional. We saw a need to keep our delegates and women connected from event to event, and so the podcast series was born, and it's quickly becoming one of my favorite things. The town of Sexsmith is pleased to sponsor today's event. Sexsmith is located 15 minutes from Grand Prairie, but it's much more than just a bedroom community. While it does boast great schools, a proud history, close access to everything in the city, this, what they call community of choice, also offers excellent opportunities for all ages through competitive and recreational sports, lifestyle clubs, and organizations such as Communities in Bloom or the Elks Club, and fun amenities like the seasonal farmers market, which is amazing, or anchor events like Chautauqua Day and Christmas in Sexsmith. The growing business sector includes some unique shopping and restaurant options, and Town Council continues to offer support and benefits to business owners looking to invest and expand. Some things they offer include small business tax incentives, development partnerships, faster turnaround times for permits and applications, and a system that is flexible enough to consider new ideas. Sexsmith is open for business. Today, we have with us Chyanne and Daryl Smith, owners of Don't Be Chy Photography, Don't Be Chy Boutique in Sexsmith, and another business, Strike the Pose, located in Osoyoos, BC. Welcome, Chyanne and Daryl.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate that.
I'm so excited to have you. I think you're our first rural business. Well, that's not true. We actually were out at HH Farm, and they're very rural. I don't know if you guys had a chance.
Yes.
It's about as rural as you're going to get.
Yeah, and it was a sunny day, so that was good. So thanks so much for joining us today. A couple questions. So first thing is, and how and why did you decide to go into business together? Because you're a spousal partnership.
Yeah, I don't think we ever planned on going into business together, but Darryl and I are both very business-minded and both have backgrounds in managing other people's businesses. And so I think we definitely seen the strengths that we each carry individually. Mm-hmm. And so as the opportunities have kind of we've just jumped on it. So we were lucky enough that almost 2 years ago to the day, almost.
Wow.
Getting pretty close.
Yeah.
Darryl was fortunate enough to be able to leave his career
Fantastic.
to come on board full-time in our businesses. And so I don't know if you want to touch base a little bit more on that and why we decided to do it when we did it.
Well, I think my take on the question for me is it was more about we kind of always had that entrepreneurial mindset.
Absolutely.
And so, as an entrepreneur, you're always scanning.
You're great
you're
employees. Because you're like, let me build your business.
Yeah, and I trade stocks. So I always have a stock scanner off to the side scanning the market for opportunities that I could take advantage of. And we kind of seen opportunities, and we seen some kind of imbalances in some of these areas that we're in. And, we didn't hesitate to be able to kind of get into that. So, and it no different than what happened when we bought Strike the Pose in Osoyoos is that, I had 20 years in the oil field, and we got to a point where, things were moving, and I was starting to gain more and more time was going towards the business, and I was feeling bad because some of that was creeping into some of my actual day job.
Pulling you apart, yeah.
Yeah,
a little bit.
And so for me, it was we either had to, make a decision, and you notice the growth, considering I'm only putting 10% of my effort or 20% of my effort.
What could we do?
Yeah, so if I was able to put 100% in, what's the opportunity, and sky's the limit kind of thing. But
that's very cool.
It's ebbs and flows for sure.
It's so beautiful. I mean, I've worked in the time that I've been with CF with numerous different clients all over the spectrum, everywhere. And probably the ones that are challenging but really rewarding are working with spouses, because a lot of times you come in with kind of some specific ideas about who's going to have what role and that sort of stuff, and then that starts to change a little bit and evolve, and it's 24/7, right? Like your business partner is your partner at home and that sort of stuff. So it's a challenge, but I watch those businesses and how they grow when they're growing, and they're very organic and beautiful to watch. So that's pretty cool. What were some of the initial challenges that you faced in combining both your personal and professional lives?
I think, like you said, it's challenging, and the idea of you each kind of having like your own tasks that you're going to take on is actually something that Darryl and I really do focus on. And Darryl likes to refer to it as staying in your lane.
Right.
And although we all know there are times that you're going to have to merge, maybe to like a middle lane together, we have really learned our strengths individually. That's awesome. and try to stay in our own lane. Now, that is also the trickiest part, is to stay in your own lane, because
sometimes you feel that you can be creative, or sometimes you can bridge that gap. But
when we say we all know
Darryl
sometimes,
exactly. Sometimes I do.
Yeah.
And you find out real quick that either it works or it doesn't work.
Yeah,
and
totally.
But also too, being on the other side of that, when you see your partner or your spouse, or anybody involved with your business is trying to, to put their signal light on and come into your lane, you have to be able to
accommodate,
really be receptive. It's like driving on the highway. Sometimes you got to slow down and let them in.
Oh, you don't just speed up.
Well, sometimes
there's nothing much more satisfying when we see a bunch of people trying to work together to keep that guy that's on the shoulder trying to come in. And that happens too.
Activity.
Yeah. Well,
and that happens too, whether it be people trying to, come into your business and tear you down, whether it be on social media or like bad Google reviews. So like, these are the things where, it's nice that when you have a good strong foundation within your company, you're able to kind of move through
roll
some
with
of that
those
stuff.
punches and not be like so taken out by them, right? Yeah. And I think we live in a world right now that's like real time, and it's like, it's not just reality television. It's like everybody is in your business all the time on social media, and they know things before you even know them sometimes.
Yes.
So that can be absolutely challenging for sure. So changing gears just a little bit, how did you guys choose Sexsmith as the location to build two of those businesses?
We live on an acreage on a farm just outside of Sexsmith towards TP Creek. It's been both of our homes, the area, for a very long time, but I technically grew up in Sexsmith. So it's very much home.
There, yeah.
It's home to me. I did hair in Sexsmith for over 16 years out of a business there.
And people would be devastated if you left, because they will follow
yes,
you.
They do. And even if I try
they were.
they would. And so funny story. Our photography has been based out of the area because that's where home is. And so originally we were just working, from home. But when we decided to open the boutique, the hair salon that I had been working out of actually flooded during COVID, and she decided not to open.
Oh,
again.
So then it's like,
So then those clients, because we all know how women are with their hair.
I do.
Were like, you are not allowed to retire from hair, Cheyenne, because I was only doing it part-time because I was doing photography full-time.
You were doing the other things.
And I was like, okay, well, I can rent a chair in GP and just do, because it's like my passion. Absolutely. I love doing it. I didn't want to stop doing it. And just the amount of going back and forth, trying to balance like family, because the girls weren't fully driving then. It was a lot. And I was like, is this, like, I'm technically paying now to do my hobby. And
totally.
I had told one of my lifelong clients that I was going to retire, and she's like, no, you're not. And she literally phoned her boss that has some commercial space in Sexsmith and had told him to phone me. And the space that he had was not ideal for what I wanted. And I was kind of joking with Darryl that, like, this woman won't let me retire.
And she's going,
yeah. And so then I was actually telling one of my other clients about this crazy client of mine. And she's like, we have a space. She said, we've outgrown our space. We're expanding. Awesome. You should move into our space.
Is like, ding, 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 ding.
iPhone.
You don't get around.
Yeah.
There's just, if this, then this, and yes, it's yes.
I phoned Darryl and was like, look, like, here's an idea. Do you want to go look at the space? And he's like, yep. And that's one thing Darryl's always been really good at is one, supporting me, and two, jumping on opportunities when he sees them. Like he's not like me. He doesn't overanalyze everything.
That's probably what makes you good is like, yes, okay, but.
Yeah. And so that's why the boutique ended up in Sexsmith was we loved the small community aspect of it, but mainly it was because of my client.
Fair enough, right? And she just enabled.
Yeah, it was like we just we went with it, and
you probably had a lot. You would have had way more challenges, I think, to do those things if it wasn't meant to be. So that's kind of cool.
Well, moving into the city didn't make any sense because I mean, there's so many.
The volume.
There's so many. The competition is huge there. Where in Sexsmith there's a need for it, there's a want, and there was an opportunity with regards to some of the retail spaces. And it worked out because we tried it out, and then we ended up, being successful at that. And then, looking for other opportunities later to scale the business, we found, there was a building for sale, and, we took 2 years to kind of close that deal, but we finally got the price that we wanted to pay. And,
lovely.
And now we
have a piece of history in Sexsmith. Yeah.
I love that. Yep. And then kind of you have that layering and a lot of vertical integration that can happen within your own company, owning your own space, that sort of stuff. Like you have a bit more autonomy. That's pretty cool.
Well, that and also too is that if you ever decide to, and this is one thing I love about real estate, because we were also involved in that, is that even with the business, if we decided to just close the store, let's say, we can keep the space and you can rent it out to other people. So you still have you still have something that you can kind of maintain, even though you're not operating the business. You kind of have two businesses within one, which, gives you multiple different streams.
100%. So, and backup revenues and all that kind of stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've talked a little bit about kind of how your lives merge together for the business opportunities, that sort of stuff. How do you maintain a healthy balance between kind of work and personal life, and what does that look like?
We love this word balance.
Yeah,
balance. It's a fallacy, I think.
Yeah.
Right? What's healthy for one person is not for another, and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So,
there's so many people that I've noticed, especially in relationships and in business, is that they, some people, we never fight or we never argue. We get along so well. And for me, I'm just like, man, if you're not arguing or you're not passionate about something, or somebody has taken a different perspective, it's like, how are you able to gain a larger picture? So if you're always in agreement with everybody, it's kind of like you're on the same path and you're all driving over the same cliff, right? So, but somebody needs to see that cliff.
To be able to say, hey, we should probably merge.
Yeah.
We should probably take the exit.
We should, let's go left. So, I mean, with us, in terms of healthy, it really, it changes weekly. It changes monthly, sometimes daily. Especially with life that kind of goes on with the kids and the kids in school, and a vehicle breaks down, so then you're having to pivot. So there's certain things that you can't just ignore. And because you're in business together, it doesn't actually stop. So
it's true.
This whole balance thing to me doesn't make sense, because ultimately, if the balance is required when your business needs it.
Yeah.
And it's your business or your children. So when your children need attention, you need to pay attention. So even when I was working with bonnets or in the oil field, if I had to go and deal with something with my family or my business, I went and talked to my boss, and I'd be like, hey, Troy, I gotta go do my thing. And he gives you that a bit of grace, right?
Yeah.
Now, the shift of it is that if you're constantly having to deal with this,
you're losing that balance.
Well,
for sure.
that, and also you kind of need to come up with a plan. You need to figure something out. So for us, I think the healthy balance has its ebbs and flows, and it kind of moves through that channel. And we're really good at being able to recognize when we need to take some time for ourselves, and when we really need to just say, like, look, I want to sit on the couch with you and watch TV.
Absolutely.
But I really need to get this done, because I know that, in
the end, we're going to value the fact that we did that.
Yeah. And I think too, balance is in, how you see it. So, it doesn't have to be 50-50 all the time. And like Darryl said, when our businesses need more attention, then yes, we're giving our businesses more attention. And there's a lot of people that say, keep home, at home. And Darryl and I are not believers in that.
That's a hard one.
We just have really learned to communicate, and not only between the two of us, but also between the girls.
For sure.
To be able to comfortably say, hey, we need this. Like our girls, there was a time that we were so busy growing the photography that the girls were starting to feel like they just didn't,
for us.
like they didn't see us enough,
They're more of an
right?
employee.
Yeah.
Hey, can you move that light?
Yeah. And so they were like, hey, can we make Sundays, always Sundays family days? So
and you
Darryl,
empowered your kids to actually have that solution oriented.
because you need different things at different points in your life. And there was also a point when, again, we learned a lot from the photography side of business, which has really helped us. I'm answering emails at 11:30 at night, and Daryl's like, why? Why are you on your phone? And I'm like, it's a bride. It's an emergency. And he's like, is it an emergency? So now we've kind of learned to balance an actual emergency with a bride or something that could just wait.
What do you believe are strengths of working with your partners as opposed to working with someone else?
Did you want me to say?
Sure, you start.
I love the fact that we can have an honest conversation with each other and know that emotion is separate from the problem. Fantastic. So when we go into a situation, I'm like, listen, I don't like the way that looks. I think it looks tacky, or whatever that might be. It's not it. As a wife or a husband, you could be. It's a personal thing. It's like, well, I created this, and you don't like the way I look, and you don't like this. So we have the ability to separate that.
Beauty.
80% of the time.
I was going to say
80% of the time.
Some of us more than others.
Fair enough.
The ability to have those conversations is what I like, because I do remember, especially when I was back in the oil field, you come into a meeting, and if you were to say something, now all of a sudden you're just thinking in the back of your mind, you got 2 weeks of just seeing this person at the water cooler and having to say, how was your day? And they're giving you this terrible, carbon copy response. And you're just and you know that they hate you because you disagreed with them.
Yeah.
Where as a couple, we can actually have those conversations. Now, I'm not saying that there's a lot of people out there that have business partners that don't have that, but it's definitely something that you build over time.
Absolutely.
And
I think
there's
so much different type of trust there.
Yes, I was going to say that's the biggest thing is we have complete trust in each other. So even if I can't be present for something, I trust that Darryl's going to make the best decision, not only for our businesses, but also for us personally. And even if you have a business partner, sometimes it's going to take years to be able to grow that trust,
right?
To be able to know that the decisions that they're making are in line with what you want.
Yeah, there's no maliciousness.
Yeah. And even if it's, maybe not on purpose, but it's just you guys don't align on your end goal. That's another big perk with working with your spouse is we know that our end goal is the same.
Yes.
We are two people working towards one huge common goal. And I think that's a really big perk to working with your spouse is I already know a lot about Darryl going into being his business partner. He's a ginger. He needs to eat. So, we joke about this, but if you have a ginger,
it's a legit, proven scientific.
Yeah, if you have a ginger on your team,
you better be prepared.
I know, if I'm going to go into a business meeting or present something to Darryl, it's I'm not doing it around lunchtime when he hasn't eaten.
Well, I'm probably
not
going to. Lunch, and she's like, "Can I have I just want to talk to you about something." And I'm just like,
let me finish.
Now's not the time.
Darryl knows that I am an overthinker. So he has definitely learned over the years that he really does need to kind of present facts to me.
Details.
It's not that I disagree with him on the idea that he has. It's I just need the details because that's how my creative and woman brain tend to think.
I think that's very true. And that's that yin yang kind of piece, right? And I find that even with my own spouse, we don't do business together. There's very clear reasons sometimes. But yeah, it is kind of but I'm granular. We're right, what if this? And he's just ding, what about this? I'm but what about this, right? Yeah. So it's trying to find that happy medium and really being able to see the detail in the big picture stuff.
Sometimes you just know as a spouse that you wouldn't be good in business together and don't fight it. That's...
Well, and I've seen examples of that as well. And I've seen really great businesses fail when a partnership fails, very often with spouses. I've also seen marriages fail as a result of a business failure. And those are really hard because they just didn't find that groove, or, getting through really challenging times sometimes can be challenging on both the relationship and the business. And sometimes there's collateral damage. And I think being aware of each other's needs, I think, even through that stuff, because, we're not perfect. We're not always going to excel. Sometimes there will be small failures, and we have to be able to roll with those punches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference, kind of helped us understand that. Empathy is a huge component to not only your marriage, but also like your business, and understanding, different points of view as to why somebody needs to come out, come from that perspective. But it's knowing when to, stand your ground and kind of know, like basically, pick and choose your fights.
Yep.
Which hill am I
pick your
prepared to die on here?
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. Like it's, we say that we can stay in our own lanes and all this, all this stuff. But, when something fails in your business where it's catastrophic, and let's say you have to, shut the doors for whatever reason. And let's just say it was her decision, or let's say it was my decision to, that actually was the catalyst that actually had shuttered the windows. Is that I know that somewhere at some point, somebody would probably say, well, it was your fault. Yeah. And I know that as my wife, like my wife I know that those words will never come out of her mouth, because she understands like the gravity of what that would do to not only our relationship, our marriage, our kids, like
that judgment.
Yeah. For sure. And we've been there. Like, so Daryl's not just saying this as a hypothetical. We've been there. And it's like, I could have said like, I told you so, or why did you do that? Or whatever else, comes out of people's mouths.
But there's really no value.
But there's no, like, that's not
Doesn't
productive.
Fix anything.
Yeah. Like that's not helping anything.
Yeah, we're
it's
just
like,
mad.
this is where we are. How do we recover from this and move on together? And support each other. Like that's the biggest thing, is if somebody does make a mistake, it's like, oh crap, like I messed up that one.
And knowing it's okay to say I messed up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And having a partner that supports that it's okay that you messed up.
How do you guys support each other's personal growth within the business and stuff as well?
Yeah, I think this one's a big one for us, is we really try to support each other's individual goals. So Darryl needs to be active. This is something that he has.
I heard you were saying like reffing and all that kind of stuff.
And so we had this discussion on our first date, which was like a 12-hour interrogation on my end. Like we're not lying.
An interview.
An interview.
It was an interview.
It was an interview. Darryl did ask.
Obviously, you did well.
He was the one that was questioning me. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
His big thing was, like, are you okay with somebody that wants to go like play hockey or that kind of stuff? And I think we're very good at supporting each other individually. So sometimes Darryl likes to take on a little bit more than maybe I would personally want to do, but it's what fills his cup. Yeah. On that side of things. So whether he's like coaching or umpiring or reffing or playing hockey or starting a hockey league or any of these things on the side, they're all what brings him joy, which is what I think also helps our relationship, is because he's not resentful that I'm constantly asking where he is or what he's doing. I know that this is something that he's passionate about. Right. And I think it's no different than whenever I'm like, hey, I signed us up for another podcast, or hey, we're mentoring more people, like we're volunteering, or because that's also what fills up my cup, is being able to give back. And I think the support that we have for each other is really big.
And recognizing what allows you to be your best self, to come to the table to be your best selves.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but for me, it's all about making sure that she is doing what she loves. And for me, it's like, I'm super supportive. Like I got her first camera before she got into photography. It's just like, you can recognize then, it's like, listen, this is your passion. I don't really, it's like, no, I'm pretty sure this is. Like at the end of the day, go try it out. And if it doesn't,
your face.
I mean, as soon as she started doing it, like she had such a passion for it. That's awesome. It proved its own point, whether they're physically, emotionally, like spiritually, however you want to go about it. It's like, you have to be willing to do whatever it takes so that they ensure that their happiness. And for me, the sports and being active is my happiness. And I had told her, like, when we retire, it's like, I can't live in a place where there's not a hockey rink. Like, there's just no way.
Certain things and criteria.
There's no way. Like,
that has to be.
Osoyoos in that Okanagan kind of area is great because, you know, there's still hockey. It's nice warm climate for her. And I still get my snow and Christmas. And
so kind of in keeping with that, what have you learned about each other through the experience of running businesses together?
I've learned, because I've been divorced previously. I didn't do the best of job. Like I didn't have the empathy then. I didn't have the patience. I didn't have any of the qualities that I had now. And so marrying Cheyenne, and that's kind of why one of the reasons why it was an interview is because I recognized that I screwed up and that I needed that. And if I didn't do that, I can't fix this for my kids. Like my kids are going to be the byproduct of my inability to kind of, you know, better or improve
And that's
myself.
a lot of self-actualization and awareness that comes from growth.
That interview wasn't just necessarily about finding love, but it was also understanding a little bit more about what I actually need. And so Cheyenne kind of checked all those boxes. And for me, and so for me, it was more about, finding the right person, because that's the realization for me was that if I'm going to do anything in life, I need to have somebody who's willing to, push me to kind of be a better person. And I mean, this is so cliche because I'm sure there's a million podcasts out there that have this same idea, but for me, it was really, really important because I didn't realize I was going to get into business. Like I always had that entrepreneurial mindset, but I didn't understand what that meant. Like I had no idea how to put it together.
Someone else starts businesses. Yeah.
And so for me, it was so important to find, a spouse that was allowing me to grow and to kind of push me to be that way. So that finding her and her ability to kind of push me. So it's super important for someone to find their spouse, because that is ultimately the biggest decision you'll probably ever make in your life.
I think the growth that I have seen in us individually, but then coming together as a couple has been something that I've really I've noticed over the years, right? Like Darryl and I have gotten more done in our 13 years together than we ever did with our exes. Wow. And it's not because our exes were bad people. No. They're both actually business people as well. So it's quite interesting because, when we get together and you have two personalities that match better, and that again have that common goal, the amount that you can get done, is just, I think, like impressive. And not just for us, but for anyone. And I think Darryl's right. Like who you pick to spend your life with is so important. And we always tell the girls who you surround yourself with is like so important, right? And so,
well, and I mean, just even with that, as the girls were talking about, about this this class, they're going to fail it or whatever. And I'm like, listen, it's not that big of a deal. I was like, what your biggest concern is graduating high school. I mean, you don't necessarily have to graduate the top of your class. Be nice if you did. It's not that significant, because they know that we never graduated high school, Cheyenne and I. So we failed at that. And that's kind of one of the things we told them. Like, just you graduating is already setting the bar higher than
you're checking off some boxes
that
we didn't.
But also it's about the people that you surround yourself with, because they get the teenagers thing, right? Where they get in that the angst. Where's all my friends and I want to be over there. And we've instilled with them that, listen, it's okay to be alone. You have to understand, the need to self-soothe, and you don't need somebody around to pat you on the bum and to pick you up and move you along. And they've kind of surrounded themselves with people that better them, and then also they're very quick to fire their friends, right?
So, which is very hard.
Yeah, it is.
And I think then I then see clients like that who are like, this is how it works, and this customer is not serving me. I'm not serving the customer. Why am I working with them? Versus that client who I've seen like almost in an abusive relationship with a customer because they feel that
they need it.
Yeah. And so I really like that we're instilling those types of values in our kids because, do not as I did.
Yep. Well, and I think that's a big thing is Darryl and I came from childhoods that maybe weren't the most ideal. to be able to set us up for success early in our life. Like he said, you know, like I did correspondence for my last 2 years of high school because my parents were divorced and it was a messy divorce. And so I was back and forth between the two of them. And so, you know, for our girls, we're like, it is very important who you surround yourself with, because maybe whenever I was 17, if I was in a better situation, who knows where I would be at? Yeah, who knows where I'd be, right? But Darryl and I are very like bootstrap, hard knock life learners, and which is I think part of the reason why we're so big on giving back to other entrepreneurs is just because we had to learn so much through our younger years that were just a little bit more difficult. That if we could just help somebody avoid that or overcome it quicker, then yay.
Yeah, and it kind of came full circle for me. When my daughter was yelling at me, I was outside doing chores here, and she's like, I need to tell a story about about basically getting through adversity. Oh. And so she wanted to tell the story about when I was in high school and I got caught in the cafeteria. I mean, long story short, Mom died when I was 7. Dad had left, and like we had kids all the kids at home, and I was kind of like the only responsible one. So I would go to school for months with no lunch, and my stomach was like eating itself. I was like headaches. I couldn't focus. Like wasn't doing well. I found out that it was food. I needed food. So it was super important that when these kids, like you give their lunches and they eat their lunches, and it's more to that. And I understood, and now I understood that a bit better. So during the intramurals, I would go and into the cafeteria when everyone would left to go play floor hockey, and I would go through the garbages and I would eat the food that was left over. And so I got away with it for quite a while. So Mr. Ramsanker finally caught me, grade 5, I think it was, grade 6, caught me, and basically, and this is the tale about why or how this times now are extremely different than what they were. Because I'd be honest with you, he basically just got me a job at the cafeteria, and my payment was food. Oh, and it allowed me to kind of move through life with a little less heartache
and pride.
And he couldn't fix it.
Yeah.
And obviously
there wasn't anything.
My secret stayed with him, as far as I know, to his grave. God bless his heart. At the end of the day, the whole point was that, you know, somebody gave me a leg up, and, you know, not knowing it then, but knowing it now, it's like, that's my motivation to or our motivation now is to kind of keep people moving forward and helping them understand that, you know, whatever setback it is, it's minor. It's really not that big of a deal.
So what are some of the ways that you give back to the business community and to your community?
Well, it depends on the amount of time that we have.
Time being the most precious commodity that can't make more of.
Yeah, we try to volunteer our time as much as we can, whether it's Darryl and I individually, us as a family with the girls, you know, whether it's giving back to like the food bank, trying to donate or collect donations, adopting families. We do a lot of mentoring.
Well, the chili cook-off actually will probably be added to the top of your list when you were talking about Chautauqua Days. So we started.
I love it. I was thinking the same thing.
So you know, back to the time thing. Sometimes it's really hard for Darryl and I to have enough time to volunteer as much as we would love to volunteer.
You could just clone yourselves. Right?
Yeah, and so it's funny because one of the things that the girls have joked about for a long time is every time Darryl and I go on a holiday, we either decide to buy another rental, like a new house, or start a new business.
You have too much time to think about the things.
We love holidays. It's the time that we get to be creative and just really dream.
That. Yeah.
And so a year and a bit ago,
being idle is chaos for us.
Yeah,
right?
we can't be idle.
Need to, busy hands.
we went on holidays just with the two of us, and we came back, and the girls were like, "So, are we starting anything?" And I was like, "No, we're broke." I'm like, "We can't." I was like, "No house, no business." But Dad wants to do a charity event, and that's how we actually decided to start doing the chili cook-off, because we're hoping as it grows over the years that we'll just be able to give back even more, whether it's in like our community of Sexsmith or spreading out to like the Peace region. Yep. And so Darryl really kind of took that under his belt last year, and we did our first one.
Well, yeah. So I sit on the economic development board for Sexsmith, and I think they're going through a transition now where there's new members. It's kind of starting a new term kind of thing. And one of the things that they had, Sexsmith needs is just more, not necessarily events, but more community-oriented activities, so that people realize that it's not just about the residents, because a lot of people fail to realize that, especially in the towns and cities, is that the majority of the income that the town makes is from businesses. Like the taxes that businesses pay are astronomical.
That's why it's so important.
100%. And so you can't have a town without residents, and you can't have a town without business. If you do have a town without businesses, all your residential properties are paying a crazy amount of taxes because that's what it costs to keep the infrastructure.
And all your wealth is going
100%.
into urban areas.
So for us, it was trying to understand a way to promote businesses, but also promote people to come downtown to see what's available. Because even with our own business, we found out when we sent out flyers that were like, oh, hey, does anybody know where the best place to get a haircut is? And people were like, you have a barber shop downtown Sexsmith, and people are like, oh, I never go down there.
So true.
Right? Yeah. So it's like you're people are sometimes so blind to what's even in their backyard. My idea was to kind of get people more involved and bring them downtown to see what's available, but also take those businesses, put them in a booth making chili, and then handing out their swag or their information about their businesses. And things like community futures would probably benefit to stuff to that effect, because 100%. Businesses also need you.
And that's just it, the networking of it, because it's not just businesses from in Sexsmith that come and enter. We had businesses from all over the area.
I love that.
And it's so just, for me, it's like that good old fashioned community kind of feeling where it's like, hey, like I know who Holly is.
Like the barn raisin, right? Yeah, that's exactly it. And so just so you know, we've already been talking in our office about like whose chili is going to be the best and who's going to be the cook. And it is between Barry and Sarah. So Barry's the dad chili cook-off guy and Sarah's the Red Seal chili. So I was like, well, I'm just going to enjoy
I was going to say, you guys are just going to have your own taste testing within house.
Because the chamber last year kind of issued a little bit of a throwdown. So I was like, I know Tanya's gone, but the rest of the team is still there. So we got to show up.
They were a force to be reckoned with.
So what date is the chili cook-off this year?
We picked the third week of September, so the 20th, I believe.
Okay.
So it should be a little bit chillier. Hopefully we avoid some of the rain like we had last year, a little bit of the rain that we had last year.
So what are some of the programs that you guys are aware of or services that you've either accessed through government or that you're aware of that maybe other entrepreneurs might be interested in checking out?
I'll be honest with you, I don't think we have accessed any of them.
Which is very typical.
Right.
I would say most often, particularly for this area, you talked earlier about bootstrapping. This area is a bootstrapping community, and it was like, I did all this on my own.
Yeah.
And, I appreciate
I don't think that right? I don't think that's the motivation behind it. I think it's more in terms of what's available and then all of a sudden the criteria that is required to qualify.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that we've actually done is through BDC, which gave us a better interest rate, is through the Métis, like the Indigenous Métis. So I'm Métis, so I'm able to get like a lower interest rate, but it's just actually the same interest rate. They just take a portion of it and they give it back to a program. So I chose the Friendship Center here in Grand Prairie. So a portion of our interest goes to them, and so you pay essentially a lower interest rate.
A lot of the times we have found that we didn't qualify for it. So a big one was I wasn't an employee.
Oh, I see.
And so a lot of it, you had to be an employee. So, so you learn that lesson. It's like, okay, now Cheyenne's an employee.
Now nothing will ever come up again, right? Like that's frustrating.
Or like we have mentored multiple apprentices through the hair, through the hair salon. But if we do qualify for anything, it's very minimal. The amount of time that has to go into it.
It's the time.
The accountant is like like for the $1,000 that you might get.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing you did ask the accountant, like, is this beneficial? He's like, don't bother. Yeah. He's like, why? Because you would. Yeah. I mean, again, I could be screwing it up, but basically it was like you have to have apprentices every single year. It's like they give you the initial credit. Right. And then if you maintain that level in terms of really what you're doing and you keep those apprentices coming,
we're in a small community, not everybody wants to.
You got to pay the money back.
Oh, frustrating.
So I'm like, well, it's not really an incentive. It's more of it's like a short-term or long-term like loan, really.
Mm-hmm. Or like through networking, I had learned, actually it was through, I had volunteered for the Sexsmith Museum Society, and I had learned that every year they do the summer program for student hire. Right. And I was like, that's brilliant. We have students technically that work for us.
Yeah.
Well, the deadline had passed.
Yeah. And that's the problem with that cyclicality.
Yes. And I missed it again this year because they moved I was so excited. I'm like, I am on this. It has taken Cheyenne 10 years to figure out how to get, some help, some relief. And I missed the deadline again. And I was like, you know what? As a business owner, you don't always have the time.
Well, and so often those windows are so small. And yeah, I mean, I'm like the lone wolf going, we need more flex. We need more time. And what I saw even coming out of some recent disruption in the world is like the programs that came out like boom, 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 boom. And the expectation was that the businesses would just be able to quickly be able to do those applications and get it done. Well, not taking into account the businesses had changed significantly. The amount of women or manpower that you had available to you was significantly declining and decreased. So really the only people who could apply for those or businesses were ones that were already okay, and that was really
and then you're like, why do I even need it?
Right?
Yep.
Looking back, is there anything that you would do differently in your experience?
For me, I would say get it in writing.
Totally.
This might sound like the most naive, inexperienced thing that a business person could possibly say, but I trust people. I trust their word. I came from the parents that were like, you only have your name and your word. You should stick by it. Well, unfortunately, that's not the case. Yeah. And so even if you do a ton of research, which Darryl and I in a failed business did a ton of research, we did not know to get everything in writing, and unfortunately learned a very expensive, very hard lesson with that one. But even though it didn't turn out, the two of us actually learned a ton from that failure, which I actually think has helped us to be where we are today.
So what advice would you give to couples that might be considering getting into business together?
I think Darryl and I have always been really big on focusing on your personal growth. Yeah. Because like he mentioned, we were both in previous relationships. We learned a lot from those relationships about ourselves.
For sure.
And I think that one of the main reasons that we can be such good partners to each other is because we focus on being the best version of ourselves so that we can give to each other.
Anything else that you want to share with our audience before we close today?
I think the biggest thing for us that we learned, well, I definitely learned, is not to just think on something for so long that it scares you from doing it. Because
the planning paralysis.
Yes. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Like even our daughter, whenever she was trying to figure out like university stuff, she was just getting so like overwhelmed with what courses and
what if I make the wrong choice?
What if I make the wrong choice?
What if you don't make a choice?
Yes. And that is one thing that we've always taught the girls is what if? Like what if you do fail? Like then you do this. So it's like, so you start.
Mitigation.
Yeah, you start, and if something goes wrong, then you figure it out. But at least you got started, and an object in motion stays in motion.
Absolutely.
So don't be so scared to start your business that you don't start your business.
Agreed. Your own experiences and really being open and honest about those. It's like, you don't talk about money. That was taboo. You don't talk about sex. That's taboo. You don't talk about business, like all of those things. And it's like, what if we actually talked about it more?
Yes.
So we demystify it and we all just got better at it.
Yep. Yeah.
All the things.
Darryl and I have always been really big on being like open books. We will talk about anything openly and honestly about our experience. So if anybody ever has a question, feel free to reach out to us. We're not hard to find. And we'll give you our experience. It might not be right or wrong, but we have no problem sharing.
I love it. And I think that we need more and more entrepreneurs to share those stories and that it's not all rainbows and butterflies. Mm-hmm. I mean, from the outside, the Instagram perfect. But there's a whole lot of other roiling around that happens to create that. To those watching, thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to showcasing many more of our regional entrepreneurs, showcasing our amazing entrepreneurial spirit that lives here. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel and Spotify account. It's free to subscribe. And that way you can keep up to all the cool things that we're doing at Community Futures, all the things we're doing with Hyperdrive, and all the new entrepreneurs that you will meet along the way. Thank you so much and have a great day.